My sister took my medical treatment fund for her honeymoon, my parents backed her, so I exposed their long game, silently shattered their perfect life. My name's Arla, and I wish this was just a nightmare I could wake up from. But it's real. My sister used the money I'd saved for brain surgery to go on a honeymoon. And when I confronted her, my parents didn't defend me. They defended her. They said I was stronger, that I could handle it. But what about the years I worked double shifts? What about the diagnosis I never asked for? That betrayal was just the beginning. Because what I uncovered next, it wasn't just a selfish sister. It was a family conspiracy that nearly destroyed everything. I walked through the front door just past 9 p.m. The air inside my apartment was stale and still. My feet throbbed inside my clogs. 14 hours on the trauma floor had worn through every layer of patience I had left. I dropped my keys into the ceramic bowl by the door, peeled off my hoodie, and hung it on the back of the kitchen chair without thinking. The silence was comforting. For 5 minutes, I stood in the middle of my living room, letting the hum of the refrigerator and the ache in my shoulders settle in. Then I remembered the surgery. It was just a month away now. My neurosurgeon had warned me, benign doesn't mean harmless. My tumor wasn't waiting around, and neither could I. I'd been squirreling away every cent for 3 years, turning down vacations, skipping nights out, saying no to everything that wasn't life-saving. I opened the banking app. The moment the screen loaded, I froze. My balance read $148.76. I blinked, refreshed again. Where there should have been $73,000, there was nothing. Not low, not suspicious, gone. I scrolled through the transaction history, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would rupture. 43 transactions in 2 days, all in amounts just low enough to avoid detection. Some to airlines, others to travel agencies, one labeled Luxury Getaways LLC. I slammed the phone on the counter and picked it up again. This couldn't be real. I'd been hacked. Had to be. I called the bank. 5 minutes of hold music. Then, "Hi, thank you for calling Cascade Bank. This is Alicia speaking. How can I assist you today?" I tried to sound calm. "I need to report what I think is a case of fraud. Someone emptied my savings account." There was the sound of clicking keys on the other end. "Let me just verify. Looks like these withdrawals were made from a device already on file. A Samsung tablet linked to your secondary user." My mouth dried out. "Secondary user?" "Yes, ma'am. The joint holder from the backup access account says here it was established in 2010. Do you want me to read the name?" My stomach turned. "No," I said quietly. "I know who it is. The backup account. The one my mother insisted I keep open just in case when I left for college. I never closed it. Forgot it even existed. She never did." I ended the call before I said something I couldn't take back. And then, because life has a sick sense of humor, a ding sounded, an email from Janelle. Subject line, "Thank you, sis." Body, one photo, her and Dorian wrapped in white towels lounging beside a turquoise infinity pool. Bora Bora in the background. Another photo, the booking receipt. Premium honeymoon package, $51,200, paid in full with an account number ending in 9032. My account. Below the pictures, a single line in glittery pink cursive, "You always said family comes first." I stared at the screen so long my eyes burned. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't an accident. They used my surgery money for a damn vacation. My ears rang. I tried to breathe, but the air felt too thick. I slid to the floor. My head hit the cabinet on the way down, but I didn't care. I thought about every night I skipped eating out. Every shift I picked up on holidays. Every time I told myself, just a little longer, Arla. Just keep saving. And they used it to sip mimosas on a beach. Not for an emergency, not for survival, for sand and selfies and sunsets. I opened her Instagram out of pure masochism. The caption under their latest post read, "Honeymoon bliss #blessed thank you sis." Blessed. No, 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 no. I opened every banking app one had, every account, every card, every login. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Everything I thought was secure. Shared access, linked backups, old connections I should have severed years ago. And now they'd taken everything. My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Mom, "Hope your shift went okay. Love you." I stared at it like it came from a stranger. Love? That's what she called this. I'd always believed in boundaries. Believed that just because people are family doesn't mean they're entitled to your peace. But I bent anyway. I always bent because when it came to them, my mom, my sister, I thought I could trust. I thought I had time. I was wrong. I tapped open my password manager. If there was anything left they hadn't drained, I was going to find it. But instead of clarity, what I found next almost made me throw up. Because there it was, my mom's name listed as the co-owner on my savings account and the last login coming from Janelle's zip code. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I sat on the floor of my apartment, still in my scrubs, watching the same set of transactions loop on my screen over and over like some kind of sick joke. $73,000. My future poured into the sand. By sunrise, I was numb, but not confused anymore. No, I knew exactly who had done this, and I wasn't going to ask nicely. The drive to Forest Heights was quiet, not peaceful, quiet like the air right before a tornado hits. The streets were wet from last night's rain, and every turn I made felt mechanical, rehearsed. I knew the route like the back of my hand. Same neighborhood where I grew up. Same two-story house with the chipped white trim. But this time, I wasn't coming as a daughter. I pulled into the driveway just after 7. My dad's truck was parked out front. Curtains in the living room were already drawn open. Mom was up, probably making her morning smoothie with chia seeds and too much kale, like nothing ever happened. I didn't knock. I walked straight up and rang the bell with the kind of force that made the door rattle. Footsteps approached. Era. Mom opened the door, robe tied tight, hair curled just so. "Didn't expect to see you this early." I didn't answer. I stepped inside. She followed me into the kitchen. "Is everything all right?" I placed my phone on the counter and tapped the screen. My account, the withdrawals, her name, Janelle's zip code. "Why is your name on my account?" My voice was steady, flat. She blinked. I thought you knew." "That's your answer?" I picked up the phone and held it closer. "You helped yourself to my life savings and thought I knew." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My dad walked in then, scratching the back of his neck like he just rolled out of bed. "What's going on?" "Your wife and your daughter took my surgery money," I said. "That's what's going on." He looked at my mother. She looked away. "We just helped Janelle out a little," Mom said finally. "She needed a new beginning. You always said family comes first." "I needed brain surgery." "You'll get the money back," Dad added, like that was supposed to be comforting. "You're smart, Era. Responsible. You always bounce back." "Bounce back?" My throat tightened. But I wouldn't let myself break. "Not here. Not in this kitchen." I turned to Mom. "So you used my name to keep access to my accounts for years? Set up devices under my name?" She didn't deny it. "It was never malicious. Just in case. In case you ever wanted to ruin me." Just then, Janelle descended the stairs barefoot and glowing, like she hadn't just burned our entire family to the ground. "Arla," she said softly, voice catching. "I told them not to take it. I swear I didn't want any of this. They just wanted to help me." "Help," I stepped toward her. "You booked flights, paid for hotels, and posted a whole photo dump with the caption 'Thank you, sis.' That's not helpless. That's calculated." "I didn't think you'd miss it," she mumbled. "You never spend money on anything." I stared at her. You're unbelievable. Mom stepped between us. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? I laughed. No, dramatic would be selling my car, lighting the house on fire, and posting about it on Facebook. This is me calm. Dad muttered, you never were good at letting things go. I turned to him dead in the eyes. You mean letting myself be robbed blind without saying a word? No, I'm not good at that. They looked at me like I was the villain. Like I was ungrateful. Like I was ruining Christmas in July. I'm not going to let this slide, I said. This isn't a little family thing. It's theft. It's betrayal. And it ends here. You would destroy your own family over a misunderstanding? Mom's voice rose, suddenly trembling. It's not a misunderstanding, I snapped. You knew what you were doing. You just didn't think I'd do anything about it. And that was the truth. They'd counted on me staying silent. Again, I took one last look at all three of them. Mom with her arms folded tight across her chest, Dad scowling like I'd insulted him, and Janelle with fake tears threatening to spill. For the first time in my life, I didn't see a family. I saw three people who had stolen from me, smiled while doing it, and expected me to say thank you. I grabbed my keys from the counter. We're not done, I said. Not by a long shot. As I walked out the door, I could hear Mom calling after me. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. But I didn't turn around because it was already too big, too late. And that's when I remembered every time they told me it's not a big deal. And I swallowed it. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the low hum of the engine and my fingers gripping the steering wheel until they hurt. Portland's early evening light was fading fast, casting long gray shadows over the wet streets. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, the clouds had thickened again, threatening another downpour. Upstairs, I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and shut it quietly behind me. The same four walls, same chipped bookshelf, same pale blue couch I crashed on during overnight shifts. Except nothing felt safe now. I sank onto the couch, not bothering to take off my shoes. My phone was still clutched in my hand. I opened the banking app again, not because I expected anything new, but because I couldn't help looking, like poking at a bruise. Then I opened my journal. It had been months since I wrote anything in it, but the most recent entry leapt out at me. Mom asked again about the savings. Said it would be smart to keep her listed just in case. I don't feel great about it, but saying no always causes a scene. That entry was from almost 2 years ago. I flipped back further and found even earlier notes, little things I had brushed off. Dad asked for my online login to help with taxes. Felt off. Janelle wants to borrow my old laptop again. It synced to my accounts. The signs had always been there. I just kept ignoring them. Corwin had warned me once during a lunch break. Joint accounts are not forever, Arla. You work too hard to leave things vulnerable. I remember laughing it off. It's my family. What would they even do? And Tony, my best friend since med school, had rolled her eyes when I told her I let my mom keep my passwords for emergencies. Girl, they're not backup. They're a backdoor. I'd smiled, waved it off. They were just being cynical, right? But now, staring at the reality, I realized I'd been trained for this. Not in medical school, in my own home. Gaslit to believe that love meant silence, that being the good daughter meant bending until I broke. My hands trembled as I set the journal down. I opened Facebook. I knew I shouldn't. I wasn't even sure why I did, but curiosity always carries a cost. There it was, Janelle's latest post. Some people just hate to see others happy. A selfie of her in sunglasses sipping something pink with Dorian in the background, grinning like a frat boy. I scrolled to the comments. Aunt Louisa, your sister's always been selfish. She never supported you the way you supported her. Uncle Ray, didn't she get that fancy hospital job? Let her pay for it. You deserve joy, sweetheart. And the worst, after all her doctor money, she can't spare a little for her sister's happiness. Each comment hit like a slap. No one asked about the truth. No one cared to. I saw a familiar name in the comments. Someone from my undergrad days. Wasn't Arla always a little intense? She never knew how to let loose. I closed the app, not out of hurt, but out of clarity. I wasn't crying anymore. I walked to my desk, turned on the lamp, and opened my laptop. I started compiling everything. Screenshots, bank records, device login histories, timestamps, emails, every breadcrumb they thought I'd ignore. This wasn't revenge. This was documentation, a digital crime scene. And then I drafted the email to corwin@financehelp.net. Subject: Need your help. It's time. Body: I found everything. They've been in my accounts for years. I don't even know where to start. Please call me. I hovered over send for just a second, then clicked. My phone buzzed 2 minutes later. Corwin, they've been stealing. The moment he saw what I sent, he replied in less than 3 words. They've been stealing. 2 days later, I sat in Corwin's office clutching a mug of coffee I hadn't touched. The room smelled like burned toast and eucalyptus. An odd mix, but somehow comforting. Corwin was already at his desk, eyes scanning over a spreadsheet on his monitor, glasses pushed up the bridge of his nose. He turned the screen toward me. This is the timeline I built based on the access logs you gave me, every transfer, every login down to the IP addresses. I leaned forward. There it was in black and white. Ramona's device logged in 12 times in 1 week. Then Janelle, then Dorian. They layered it, he said, voice clipped. Janelle made the withdrawals. Ramona authorized them from the old joint account. And Dorian, this bastard applied for a loan under your name. Look, I didn't want to, but I had to. It was a personal loan, $18,000, listed under a fake consulting startup. But the SSN was mine. The address, a P.O. box registered to Dorian's gym. I stared at the screen. My stomach burned. My vision tunneled. I was supposed to be prepping for brain surgery in 3 weeks. Instead, I was watching my life get siphoned by the people I grew up believing would protect it. Corwin exhaled. They didn't just cross a line, Arla. They bulldozed through it. By the time I got to work that afternoon, I felt like I was sleepwalking. I barely registered the hellos, the patients in room 3 and 7 needing blood draws, the chaos of post-lunch hour ER traffic. I told myself I could still function, just keep my head down, clock in, clock out. But at 12:45, as I was microwaving leftover pasta in the staff lounge, Caitlin from cardiology tapped my shoulder. Arla, you might want to check your sister's Facebook. That was never a good sentence to hear. I pulled out my phone and opened the app. Right there at the top of my feed, a smiling photo of Janelle, Mom, and Dad standing in front of my childhood home. The caption read, "Family means everything, even when others try to tear it apart for attention." And I was tagged. There were already 50 comments. You deserve peace, Janelle. Some people will always play victim when they're not center stage. Didn't your sister get a huge insurance payout or something? What's she complaining about? Every lie they told behind my back had bloomed into gospel online. I locked my phone and threw it in my bag. I tried to steady myself before heading back to the nurse's station, but the buzz in my chest wouldn't stop. I could still feel everyone looking. That afternoon, I was called into Dr. Lee's office. He didn't offer coffee, didn't ask how I was, just folded his hands and said, "We've received anonymous reports questioning your financial integrity. HR is investigating." What? I blinked. What does that mean? Until the matter is reviewed, we're placing you on administrative leave. Effective immediately. I stood there, still in my scrubs, blood pressure cuff still clipped to my waistband as if I'd been yanked out mid-patient. But this isn't, I tried to explain, but he cut me off gently. You're not being fired. Just paused. We'll be in touch. I gathered my things, numb, walked to the parking garage, heart hollowing out more with each step. The car felt like a coffin when I shut the door. I sat in the driver's seat and stared at the steering wheel, waiting for anger, waiting for tears. Nothing came. When I got home, I opened my laptop. Inbox, 84 unread messages. The subject lines told me everything I needed to know. Unbelievable behavior. Shame on you. Why are you doing this to your sister? You always thought you were better than the rest of us. I didn't reply. I archived them all. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop, labeled it in all caps, Family Fraud, Do Not Delete. Inside I created subfolders, loans, logins, screenshots, email chains, social posts. If they wanted war, they had picked the wrong woman to betray. And I wasn't just planning to stop them anymore. I was going to make them regret every single lie. It was still dark when I woke up, if I even slept. The kind of sleep where your eyes close but your brain keeps running laps. By 6, I was dressed, coffee brewed, and my desk lamp already casting that harsh glow onto my notes. There was a knock at the door. I didn't have to ask who it was. Corwin stepped in with a manila folder tucked under his arm and a look that said, "You're going to want to sit down for this." He dropped the folder onto my table with a soft thud. "Ready?" he asked. I opened the flap. Inside were 5 documents, each stamped, dated, notarized, and each bearing my name. Except it wasn't my signature. Not really. Close but sloppy, too rushed. One of them was a loan agreement for a home renovation loan Marvin had filed under my credit line. Another, this one made my stomach twist, was from Dorian, listed as a business partner using my info to open a credit card. $12,000 in furniture charges. They used your financial identity like it was a Costco membership, Corwin muttered, flipping to the last sheet. And they didn't stop at one signature. They forged a pattern. I nodded slowly. It's time. By noon, we were sitting with my attorney, Elise Franco, in her downtown office. She was all sharp edges and silk sleeves, the kind of woman who didn't waste time on polite outrage. "Cease and desist," she said, typing rapidly. "Citing fraud, identity theft, unauthorized use of signature. We'll name all 3, Ramona, Marvin, Dorian." "And Janelle?" I asked. Elise paused. "Legally, her name's not on any of the docs yet, but if she was complicit, I cut her off." She was. We sent the letters by certified mail and email. I reviewed each one 3 times. No trembling hands this time. I wanted them to feel the paper cuts. I wanted the tone to sting. By 4 p.m., the calls started. First was Ramona. "I just got your email," she said, voice tight. "Arla, you didn't have to go this far." I didn't answer right away. "You always make things bigger than they need to be," she continued, her voice shrinking into that familiar guilt-laced pitch. "We're family." I inhaled slowly. "You're right. We are. Which makes what you did even worse." Click. Next, an email from Marvin, "Family shouldn't threaten family." I replied instantly, "Family shouldn't steal." There was a brief silence that felt louder than anything else. Then my phone lit up again. Janelle, not a call. She never called. Just a voice message. "Era, I get that you're mad, but you're blowing this way out of proportion. You don't want to burn bridges you can't rebuild. This can still be fixed." She sounded calm. Sweet. Even fake as a $3 bill. I played the message twice, not because I needed to hear it again, but because I wanted to remember the tone, the manipulation behind the syrup. My inbox chimed. Corwin again. Subject line, "First one cracked." The message was short, "The bank has flagged Marvin's documents for internal investigation. More to come." I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms. One win. But Elise had warned me, this move may push them to strike back harder. They'll feel cornered. I didn't care. Let them feel it. I clicked on my desktop folder, Family Fraud, Do Not Delete, and added a new audio file, Janelle Threat, March 9th. Then I sat back. They had taken everything from me, thinking I'd stay quiet. Now I was armed, awake, and finally dangerous. But I wasn't the one who lit the match. 3 days later, I walked into Corwin's office with a flash drive clutched in my hand like it was a loaded weapon. Because in a way, it was. 6 years worth of financial records, statements, messages, and transaction logs, all bundled into cold, indisputable data. "Let's burn it all down," I said. Corwin plugged the drive in, the screen filling with folder trees and PDFs. Together, we traced small transactions, $50 here, $100 there, dating back to a hidden joint account my mother had opened with me when I was 19 for emergencies. Apparently, my family believed weekly spa visits and Macy's credit card minimums were emergencies. Every time I'd gotten a raise, a bonus, even a tax refund, it had quietly slipped into that account, then been rerouted toward family needs. I saw rent payments for an apartment Janelle had when she claimed to be couch surfing. I saw Marvin's truck repair covered with a payment from a card listed in my name. And Dorian had used my credit to apply for a business loan, custom outdoor furniture company, a fraud front most likely. He listed me as a silent investor. I never even got a thank you. That afternoon, I made the call that had been simmering in my gut since all this started. Close every account tied to my name that has shared access. I don't care if they lose water or heat or rent. Let them call customer service like the rest of the world. The bank agent hesitated. "Miss Rollins, that will affect several ongoing automatic payments and authorized users." "I'm aware. That's the point. I requested my name removed from all secondary family privileges. No more just in case. No more emergency fund. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their victim anymore." Around 9 that night, I was brushing my teeth when I got a text alert. Then another and another. A nearby spa confirmed an appointment for a full luxury package charged to a prepaid card with my name. Except I hadn't booked anything. I called the front desk. "Yes, Miss Rollins, it's already been prepaid and the guest just arrived. Janelle Rollins." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Instead, I logged into my bank's dispute center, flagged the transaction, and sent the front desk a copy of the police report I'd started compiling. They offered me a coupon for the inconvenience. I didn't want a free massage. I wanted accountability. I opened my laptop again, created a new timeline, mapped out every instance of fraud, listed dollar amounts, timestamps, IP addresses, and then I drafted 2 versions. One for the financial crimes department at my bank and another, more brutal, for the police. I was done playing defense. Midnight rolled around. I was still hunched over my desk. Screenshots scattered like confetti across my desktop. That's when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "You're ruining everything." Janelle's voice screeched through the speaker, raw and frantic. "Do you even care what this is doing to Mom?" I closed my eyes. "No," I said. "And you should have thought about that before you stole from me." Her breathing was uneven on the line. "You're sick. You're making a mess of this family." I hung up. No more pleading. No more fear. I saved the audio file under Janelle Threat Part 2. As I leaned back in my chair, a strange calm spread through me. Not joy, not relief, just readiness. Then came the knock on the door and I knew it wasn't Janelle. Because this time it wasn't family. It was someone with a badge. Detective Rowe stood on the threshold, sharp suit, worn eyes. The kind of man who'd seen too many families turn on each other. "Miss Rollins," he asked, "we've reviewed your evidence. It's no longer just a complaint. It's an open investigation." I nodded, jaw clenched. "I've got more." He stepped inside briefly to verify the records, transaction screenshots, forged loan documents, digital login histories. Before he left, he paused by the door. "You did the right thing, but I won't lie. It's going to get uglier before it gets better." I didn't flinch. Good. Let them finally look in the mirror. An hour later, as I reached for a glass of water in the kitchen, the edges of my vision turned hazy. My hands trembled, legs buckled, the glass shattered before I hit the floor. Everything went black. When I came to, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The familiar beeping of monitors surrounded me. I knew the place, Legacy Emmanuel ER, my old floor. A nurse leaned over me. "You're lucky someone found you in time." I blinked, lips dry. "What happened?" "Tumor growth," she said gently. "Delayed surgery. It's progressed faster than expected." Corwin arrived not long after. His face was pale, but his eyes were fire. "I told you to get it done months ago." "I didn't have the money," I said hoarsely. "You do now. We're making it happen." As I was wheeled into a private room, Corwin handed me his laptop. "You'll want to see this." He'd kept working while I was out, dug deeper into the digital mud pit my family left behind. "Guess who applied for a fitness brand grant using your tax records?" He turned the screen toward me. "Dorian, this idiot left your social on the application twice." A cold laugh escaped my throat. Of course he did. And that was enough. 3 hours later, Dorian was arrested in the middle of a live stream for his supplement brand. Shirtless, holding a smoothie mid-sentence about alpha discipline. "Turn around, sir." "Wait, what?" "I didn't, whoa. Whoa." The cuffs clicked before he could even drop the blender. At the precinct, Dorian didn't hesitate. The moment he was told the charges involved federal fraud, he flipped faster than a pancake on a Sunday morning. Emails, screenshots, voice memos, he handed over everything. Janelle's instructions, Ramona's bank routing plans, even a recorded phone call where Marvin said, "She'll never fight us. She's too damn loyal." The detective told me later he sold them out in under 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Janelle cracked. When she found out Dorian had betrayed her, she went live on Instagram. No filters, puffy eyes, voice shaking like a performer who forgot her lines. "She's twisting this," she sniffled, fake crying. "My sisters always hated me. She just wants to hurt us." But the comments didn't go how she expected because by then the press had picked up Corwin's leaked documents. One viewer commented, "You said you didn't know, but that's your voice on the loan call." Another, "So, you spent her surgery money for real?" She tried to delete the video, but the internet doesn't forget. That night, alone in my hospital bed, I watched it unfold on the evening news. Breaking: fitness coach turns on wife in Oregon family fraud case. I couldn't help it. I smiled. One down. It was 8:43 a.m. when my phone lit up. Detective Rowe. I hadn't touched my oatmeal, just stared at the bowl like it might explain what was still left to lose. I swiped to answer. "Era," he said straight to the point. "It's official. We're moving forward with charges. Ramona Ellis, Marvin Ellis, and Janelle Davenport, we need you to come in for one final statement." I didn't cry, didn't smile, just breathed and asked, "What time?" 11. By noon, I was at the station signing every page, every document, every line that spelled out how my family had systematically dismantled my finances, my trust, and nearly my health. There were no dramatics, just black ink, initials, and silence. Strangely, it didn't feel like closure. Not yet. But for the first time, the pressure in my chest wasn't growing heavier. It had plateaued. That mattered. When I got back to my apartment, someone was already waiting outside my door. Ramona, my mother. But not the woman I remembered. Not the one who used to hum while making casseroles or who brought me tea when I studied late into the night. No, this woman looked hollow. Her hair was too tightly pulled back. Mascara streaked under tired eyes. She pressed the doorbell again, insistently this time, like someone begging the universe for a redo. I didn't open it. From the intercom, her voice cracked. "You're tearing this family apart, Arla. This isn't justice. It's cruelty. You're sick, and you'll regret this." I leaned in and said, cold and steady, "I'm not the one who stole anything, Ramona. That was you." There was a pause, then muffled sobbing, soft but unmistakable. "You're breaking your father's heart," she whimpered. I answered without emotion. "He broke mine first." I walked away from the door, but they weren't finished. That night, Janelle launched a GoFundMe campaign like this was a redemption tour. The headline read, "Help us recover from betrayal." The story was twisted, manipulative, and textbook gaslighting. She claimed I was mentally unstable, jealous of her happiness, and that I had fabricated the entire case out of resentment. The image, a filtered photo of her and Dorian smiling on some beach, cropped from a deleted Instagram post. Her fundraising goal, $50,000, the same amount they'd stolen. But the internet had already turned. The comments under the post were savage. "Didn't your husband just get arrested for fraud? Why not ask your sister for help again since you're so close? Where's the surgery fund, Janelle?" I didn't lift a finger. I didn't have to. Corwin flagged the campaign. Tony submitted documented proof of theft. By morning, GoFundMe's fraud team had pulled the page down, citing terms violations. Janelle's account suspended. Her digital cry for sympathy silenced. But she wasn't done. The next day, she reappeared, this time from a burner Instagram account. Her caption read, "You want to see real mental illness? Look at the people who think this is okay." But even her loyal followers had gone quiet. The likes stopped. The comments dried up because the truth, once it starts cracking through, doesn't stop. It spreads like wildfire. At 10:15 that morning, I arrived at the Multnomah County Courthouse. Elise, my attorney, stood beside me like a steel wall in heels, clipboard in hand, expression unreadable but strong. We waited in the lobby. Then I saw them. Marvin, my father, older somehow, his once proud posture now bent, jacket ill-fitting, face pale. Ramona, eyes bloodshot, a tissue clutched so tightly it looked like she was trying to wring guilt out of it. Janelle in sunglasses indoors, thumbs moving across her phone screen like she was live tweeting a press event. No remorse, not even a twitch of regret. They walked past us, silent, avoiding my eyes. But just before the courtroom doors opened, Ramona turned back. "Please," she said, voice brittle. "We can fix this. We're still your family." I didn't look at her. I didn't let her see how her words used to work on me. "This ends here," I said. "With the truth, not yours, mine." Elise opened the courtroom door. I stepped in, not as a daughter, not as a victim, but as a woman who had been burned and decided never to live in smoke again. The courtroom was cold, quiet, a sterile kind of silence punctuated only by the sound of shuffling papers and the low hum of fluorescent lights. I sat through the proceedings with a still face, letting the details unfold as they were meant to. When the judge read the charges aloud, fraud, identity theft, willful exploitation, I didn't flinch. When he outlined restitution, community service, and financial penalties, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. This wasn't about revenge. It was about liberation. And when it came time for me to speak, to give my victim impact statement, I didn't need notes. I spoke from the part of me they had underestimated the most, my backbone. "I'm not here for revenge," I said clearly. "I'm here to reclaim my future." I didn't need to list every betrayal. The court had already seen the proof. I lost time. I lost money. I lost my health, but I will not lose myself. The judge nodded solemnly. That's one of the most courageous statements I've heard in this courtroom. Only then, outside under the Oregon sky, did I finally exhale. I didn't break down. I didn't scream. I just let go of the last piece of weight I'd been carrying for far too long. Justice wasn't a finish line. It was a door. And I had just walked through it. And once the gavel dropped, everything changed. Not just for them, for me. The courtroom fell into a silence so thick it swallowed even the shuffling of papers and the creak of the judge's chair. I hadn't realized I was holding my breath until the judge's voice shattered the stillness like glass against concrete. "Ramona Ellis, Marvin Ellis. This court sentences you both to 24 months probation and orders full financial restitution. You stand convicted of financial fraud, unauthorized identity use, and the willful exploitation of familial trust. A sharp gasp escaped Ramona's lips. Marvin remained stone still, like he'd vanished behind his own shame. The judge continued, turning slightly as he addressed the next name on the docket. And to Janelle Ellis Davenport, you are hereby ordered to pay $63,500 in civil damages, serve 6 months of community service, and are permanently barred from accessing any financial accounts, instruments, or legal affiliations connected to Arla Ellis in perpetuity. Still, she didn't flinch. No twitch, no apology, no crack in the perfect mask. Even as the courtroom echoed with the memory of Dorian's prior sentencing, no appeal, no leniency, she sat poised like a woman convinced the stage still belonged to her. But I listened. I was present. Not as a daughter, not as a broken woman, just as someone who had endured and chosen to survive. I didn't tremble this time. I didn't lower my eyes. And then it was my turn. I stood, my victim impact statement clutched in both hands, not because I needed the words written there, but because they were a testament to how far I'd come. My voice didn't come from my throat. It came from somewhere deeper, somewhere forged under pressure. I'm not here for revenge, I began slowly, making eye contact with no one and everyone all at once. I'm here because I chose to live. I paused. Let the weight of that sentence land. I lost money. I lost time. I lost trust, but I will not lose myself. I didn't need to name every betrayal. The courtroom already held the receipts. When I finished, I expected the usual polite nod, perhaps a procedural closing. Instead, the judge looked at me with something that felt like recognition. That, he said quietly, is one of the most courageous statements I've heard in my courtroom. I didn't cry right away. Not there. Not in front of them. But the moment I stepped outside the courthouse doors, under a sky that looked far too peaceful for what had just happened, I let the tears fall. Not out of grief, out of relief. Out of the release that comes when a long-held breath is finally exhaled. 2 weeks later, I moved. East side of town. Nothing fancy, a modest 2-bedroom townhouse with clean lines, neutral walls, and a tiny balcony that faced a maple tree. One room was for me, the other for the future, for whatever I wanted to believe in again. The walls were blank, but they weren't empty. They were full of promise. No ghosts, no hidden logins, no shared access, mine, every square inch. That same week, my job reinstated me. Not only that, they offered me my promotion back, the one that was put on ice during the investigation. Dr. Lyle, usually as emotionally expressive as a concrete wall, called me personally. His voice cracked slightly as he apologized for how things had been handled. But I didn't take the title. Not because I didn't earn it, I had, but because that version of me, the one chasing titles for validation, was gone. I no longer needed a title to feel valuable. A letter came from HR the same day. All prior suspensions have been formally cleared from your employment record. I pinned the letter to my refrigerator. Not as a trophy, but as proof. Proof that I was right to stand my ground. Proof that silence isn't the only option. Still, not everything was cleanly severed. My inbox told another story. Voicemails from Ramona, alternating between self-pity and fury. Letters from Janelle, some begging for forgiveness, others laced with venom, accusations, half apologies, thinly veiled threats wrapped in the word family. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete them either. Instead, I archived every message. I created a folder titled Echoes I Survived. Not to revisit, not to wallow, just to remember. One evening while we sat in my living room, Corwin asked gently, "Why not delete them all? You've won. They're behind you." I looked at him and answered simply, "Because I never want to forget who I was when I let it happen and who I had to become to end it." These days, mornings are quiet. No drama. No alarm set by someone else's needs. No fires to put out before I brush my teeth. Just coffee, soft playlists, and sunlight creeping across the hardwood floor. The first plant I've owned in years, a pathos, sits by the window. Hardy, forgiving, the kind that survives drought and neglect, then grows again when given care. Its leaves are greener this week. And for the first time in a very long time, I smiled. Not with armor, but with peace. Justice wasn't about watching them suffer. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about a courtroom win or social media vindication. It was about finally choosing me without guilt, without second guessing, without shrinking myself for people who only saw me as a resource. This isn't a happy ending. It's an honest one. And that's enough. And if you're still here with me, thank you. I didn't choose this war, but I chose how I ended it. For anyone listening who's ever felt silenced, betrayed, or stolen from, whether by family, friends, or life itself, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not crazy for setting boundaries. You are not selfish for demanding respect. And you are not wrong for walking away when love turns into leverage. Healing didn't come wrapped in apologies. It came the moment I stopped apologizing for protecting myself. So, if you're standing in the rubble of something someone else broke, I hope this story reminds you that you can still build, brick by brick, stronger and wiser than before. Your peace is worth protecting. Your voice is worth using. And maybe, just maybe, your story will become someone else's permission to rise, too.